This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody. It is November 15th, Monday. This is the AnCan Advanced Prostate Discussion Group, and I'm Herb Geller, who's moderating the meeting tonight, and I welcome you all. And we have two new members who are going to introduce, Jim Stevens and Jonathan Starr, once we get started. But in the meantime, I guess I would like Rick and Jim Schrate to go over this crazy situation with lutetium, if you would, for us.
Sure.
Okay.
Who's going to start, Counselor?
What? You want me to start?
You can start with pleasure.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote to Russell Smulowitz at University of Chicago, who is conducting the lutetium study there. It's really not a clinical trial. It's really managed access, and with an effort to get Jerry Deans an appointment. We were successful in getting an appointment. Jerry flew out here to the Chicago area last Monday, and we met with Dr. Stadler, who is the other clinician that's involved in the trial, on Tuesday of last week. And there were a number of things that Jerry needed to complete and show. First, he needed to get off of the steroids, the dexamethasone, and we were able to present a schedule for that had been drawn up by his treating physicians. And the second thing is Jerry had just finished, really several days earlier, radiation treatment for brain metastases. So they were looking for a scan that evidenced that there was no advancement of the disease and there were no new brain metastases. And the expectation was that would require about 30 days. So we went back and just tried to move forward as best we can. And then Rick, I'll let you chime in here. You spoke with
Yeah. So we knew that supply of product could be an issue, and we always had the intention of calling our folks with whom we have a really nice relationship at Advanced Accelerator Applications. And originally I thought we should wait until he gets in the trial, but I wasn't convinced about that. And as I often do when I'm not sure which way to go, I call my friend, my counselor, my friend Jim Schrate. And Jim and I together decided probably better to call Advanced Accelerator Applications now. And that was on Wednesday night, I think. And on Thursday, I called Rachel Levine. And, they say that coincidences are the Almighty's way of showing a presence. And I think this might be what happened, because after I spoke to her about how difficult it might be to get product, and we were trying to work with Jerry, and he was really sick and he just didn't have the time to wait around if we could get him into the trial, she said, I have to tell you something. And we said, well, go ahead. And she shared something with me which was pretty amazing. I'm stopping because I don't know whether this should be on record or not. Because I don't want to compromise anybody.
Well, we could stop the recording temporarily.
I think we have to stop the recording. Yeah. I think we have to stop the recording, and we'll have to try and restart it.
Okay, hang on. Let me stop it.
Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the AnCan Advanced Prostate Cancer meeting. It is Monday, November 15th. and I'm Herb Geller, who's moderating the meeting tonight. And I want to welcome you all. And I just want to say, I mean, for Gaushan, Jim Barnes, Mark Bordridge, and Kathy, who came in a little late, if there's time at the end and you need time, we'll definitely try to get back to you. But I'm going to try to cover the people who were in under the wire, so to speak, first. So thank you for your patience. So we'll start. We have 2 new guys tonight. One, Jonathan Starr. Rick says he's already had some communication, but Jonathan, what we're going to go through is a whole series of questions sort of to help us understand you and your situation and introduce you to the group. And if that's okay, we'll begin.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so how old are you?
I'm 66.
Okay, and where do you live?
Santa Clara, California, which is Silicon Valley.
Right, it's sort of San Francisco area, right?
Yeah, San Jose, yes.
Right. So when were you first diagnosed?
2014.
Uh-huh. And at that time, what was your Gleason score and PSA level? If you remember?
Yeah, from the biopsy, it was Gleason 3+4, and my PSA was 6.49.
Okay. And where was that done?
Well, it was done at Palo Alto Medical Foundation.
Okay.
In Mountain View, California.
Mm-hmm. And that was done by a urologist.
That's right.
Okay. And then what happened next?
Well, the next major thing is I ended up having a prostatectomy, after giving some consideration to various things.
And when did that take place?
What'd you say?
When did that take place?
That was October 1st, 2014, and I had that done at Stanford Hospital,
right.
Stanford Healthcare.
Right. Okay.
And, and the expectation, at least that I had been told, was that this was a slam dunk cure. But the outcome was that it was actually Gleason 4+3 with seminal vesicle invasion and extracapular extension.
Mm-hmm. And what was your PSA after your surgery?
About 6 weeks after surgery, I got it, and it was already elevated. It was 0.31.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
Well, it was rising rapidly. I mean, it was doubling roughly every 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I, of course, was very alarmed. I went to Phoenix Molecular Imaging, Dr. Fabio Almeida, and had a C11 acetate scan.
Right.
Showed 2 pelvic lymph nodes suspicious for prostate cancer. And then I immediately went on Lupron, immediately after that, went on Lupron, Casodex, and Avodart.
Okay.
I was seeing a couple of medical oncologists, including Snuffy Myers, even though he was all the way out in Virginia.
Did you see anybody at UCSF? Or
yes, I initially saw Dr. Eric Small, but later changed over to Dr. Terrence Friedlander.
Mm-hmm.
And
Rick, do we know anything about those guys? I don't know those names.
Yes, a lot. Eric Small is probably one of the most senior GU medocs in the country. And although Eric and I don't get along very well, Terry Friedlander, our experience, Jonathan, I like him a lot. He is really one of the go-to guys for bladder cancer, but he's a GU med-onc and he's a good guy from our
Okay.
experience. I don't know what
Great.
your experience was.
Okay, so there you are seeing these guys in, I guess this is now in
2015.
2015.
Right. So I also, I also have another medical oncologist who I see more often than the others. Well, I see Shane Dormady at El Camino Hospital. He's very popular. And,
Okay.
but he's not a prostate cancer specialist. He's sort of a
Right.
general medical oncologist, but a very good guy and very smart.
Right.
So
Right.
now
so
I
he-
also saw a radiation oncologist at Stanford named Stephen Hancock. And I arranged with him, several months after starting my triple blockade ADT, I had with him full pelvic radiation, 35 sessions, with a boost to those two pelvic lymph nodes, 10%
All right.
boost. And so completed that. So my PSA, from the time I started the ADT, it initially started dropping quickly. At the time I started the ADT, it was around 0.5. Okay. It had gone up from 0.3 around Thanksgiving time up to about 0.5 in mid-January of 2015.
All right.
Okay, so it started dropping quickly at first, but then very slowly but steadily and monotonically. And I saw really no change in the rate of drop from the radiation. But anyway, it sort of got down from 0.5 to 0.1 pretty quickly. And then from there, it was pretty slow going. And it took about a year to go from 0.1 to undetectable.
All right.
So at the end of 18 months, which is now the summer of 2016, it went undetectable, meaning less than 0.01 nanograms per milliliter.
Right.
Okay, and I did a few other things along the way. I switched to a plant-based diet, mostly plant-based diet, and started taking certain supplements and things. But anyway, it went undetectable then. Also, what might be of interest is that at Dr. Snuffy Meyer's recommendation, I started using estradiol patches to reduce brain fog and reduce hot flashes and protect bone density and things like that. And I did, but I did have, and it did accomplish some of those things. Like it did reduce the brain fog, I felt. But I did get a little bit of breast enlargement and a fair amount of breast pain and tenderness. So anyway, after the 18 months, I went off, including ending the estradiol treatment.
Okay.
And my testosterone recovered quickly, like within a few months, and I was feeling great. And I really suspect, and my PSA was staying undetectable. So it was probably July when I went off where I had achieved undetectability. And all the way through the fall and the winter, it stayed that way. And I was feeling really good and hopeful that I was actually cured or something like that. But in April of 2017, my PSA started rising again. And it started rising very quickly, like doubling every 3 weeks. Not 3 months, but every 3 weeks.
Right.
And so it was quickly going up. And so in August, I believe it, in August of 2017, I went again to Phoenix Molecular Imaging, Dr. Fabio Almeida, had another C11 scan. At that point, my PSA was around, 0.4, something in the range of 0.4. And this time it found a bone metastasis in my left first rib. The first rib means the highest up.
Mhm.
So, but fortunately, only one bone metastasis, but that's kind of a tricky place because that's where there is what's called the brachial plexus.
Right.
It's where all these nerves come together. The nerves
Yep.
controlling my left arm, and I'm left-handed. And so treatment there has the risk of, losing control or sensation in my left arm. So anyway, so I, on September 1st of 2017, I went back on Lupron, and this time with the addition of Xtandi and also dutasteride. And in the spring of 2018, I had SBRT to that solitary bone met in the rib, left first rib.
Right.
Now, my PSA, going back to, remember, it's fall, September of 2017 when I started the ADT again. My PSA dropped fairly quickly at first couple of months, and then is exactly like before. Dropped quickly at first, and then slowly but pretty continuously over a long time. But this time it only took a year to get to undetectability, and I assume that's because of the involvement of Xtandi instead of Casodex. But anyway, and once again, the rate I had, as I mentioned, I had SBRT to that one bone met, the one rib metastasis, and I saw no inflection at all in my PSA progression. So I don't know if it did anything or not. And by the way, he chose my radiation oncologist, who I think very highly of, by the way, Stephen Hancock at Stanford. He decided that it would be good to irradiate the entire rib. The first rib is pretty small, but he said it would be good to radiate the entire thing rather than just where it lit up, because it could be that there'd be cancer. If he just did the lit up spot, he said, well, there could be some cancer right next to it that would start growing that he would not have irradiated. So he wanted to irradiate the entire rib. So that increased some of the rib risk, but that's what we did. And fortunately, nothing serious so far, 3.5 years later, has come of that. So,
So where are you now?
So I achieved undetectability in September of 2018, and it has remained so, thank goodness, thank God, thank goodness. It has remained so right up through today.
Okay.
And so why am I here? Why am I at I have been in a local support group ever since 2014, a local advanced support group that meets at Mountain View. And it's a great group of people and a great group of guys. And it was very beneficial to me, especially early on. But I'm, now I'm in the situation where, my remission, it's gone on essentially for 4 years. And I'm terrified of going castrate resistant sooner or later. But hopefully later, of course. But I don't have any, I do tons of research and I have no clear sense of what would be the best thing to do if and when that happens. And my group as it is now has nothing to offer me on that, in that area. I'm sort of past where my local group can be of help. And so that's what motivated me to start looking out elsewhere. And also, as I mentioned, I do a lot of research. I have a lot of information to share, but not many people to share it with who have any interest in what I have to say. Because
no, that's just great. So, but let me ask you another one or two questions, and then I'll turn it over to the group. Have you had any genetic testing of your tumor or of yourself?
Yes, I have. I had a germline genetic test, and it found no mutations of interest. This was the color test.
Right.
And I also had the Foundation one, the Guardant 360 circulating tumor cell or circulating DNA test.
Right.
But this is 3 years ago. Found nothing.
Yeah, well, I
Nothing
think,
at all.
I mean, my guess is with your PSA levels, you have an incredible low level of CTCs.
Yeah.
So the chances of finding something are pretty slim.
Yeah.
So
And then I also
What
had
about scans? What about scans, Jonathan? When was the last time you were scanned, and what was it with?
well, first of all, let me just say regarding genetics, I also had my original tumor evaluated using I've forgotten the name of the group. It's not one of the better known ones. And the only mutation it found was in APC, something that's often associated with colon cancer, colorectal cancer.
Adenopolyposis, APC.
Okay. But nothing else,
Uh-huh.
I assume is good. Now, as far as scans, I've had zillions of scans, so I'm not sure where, other things have happened during that time I didn't bother to say, like kidney stones and back pain.
Okay,
That was
Jonathan, let me cut in. The most recent scan that you've had was with what, and did it show anything?
well, the most recent PET CT scan was the one I did 4 years ago. That's the one that found the
Right,
rheumatism.
C11.
So, no,
Right, so
that was, well, yes,
you-
C11 acetate, not choline,
Right.
acetate.
Have you been scanned since Almeida scanned you in 2000?
Yes. Yeah, I'm not trying to dodge your question. So yes, I had a CT.
We have to move you along. You'll forgive me, but we have to move you along because we've got
Right.
a lot of people and we've got another
Right.
guy to get to. So we're
I
trying to move
understand.
you along a little bit.
Okay, well, my most recent relevant scan was an MRI and a CT scan, an ordinary CT scan, not a PET CT, which was for other purposes, not so much cancer purposes. That was in the spring and late spring, and they did not show anything of concern.
Okay, so a couple of things I think we should point out. We'll let the guys dialogue with you, but the first thing is that as Herb rightly said, scans aren't going to show too much right now. Your disease seems to be stable. As you rightly pointed out, the one thing missing in your treatment, which you can rely probably on having some impact, would be some sort of chemotherapy. As you well know, the treatment of this disease has changed so significantly since 2014, 15, 16, and chemo is used much, much earlier in the treatment process today than it was 7 or 8 years ago. And it's great that you have that quill in that arrow in your quill. We are pretty familiar with the El Camino group. We have a lot of respect for it. Peter Kafka, who's one of our moderators, attends it from time to time. You probably met him there. He's somewhere. Yes. He's somewhere on here right now in one of the faces.
Yep, I see him.
And so we absolutely welcome you. We're delighted to have you, and we just hope you'll keep going and keep coming back, and you'll hear a lot of good stuff, and you can also listen to some of the recordings and hear some of the things that have gone on in the past too.
Right. I mean, the one thing I would also add, the one thing you're saying is what might be next if it becomes CRPC. I think there are a lot of choices. And the main thing for you is to make sure you keep in touch with one of those outstanding GU oncologists who's going to help you guide you through that decision.
Yes. Well, I see Dr. Mark Scholes every 4 months,
Okay,
Terrence Friedlander every
right.
4 months, and Shane Dormady every month.
Well, I
So,
tend to think you're pretty well covered.
Who do you consider to be your quarterback?
it's I'm not sure. They're good for different things. Terrence Friedlander is very good for research. Mark Scholes is good for getting access to advanced treatments. And Shane Dormady is sort of very good for, general decision making and, my Lupron shots and sort of keeping me going month to month. So I maybe Mark Scholes, but the person I feel the closest connection to is Shane Dormady, although I'm well aware that he does not keep up with clinical trials and stuff like that nearly as much as the other two do.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to say, are there any comments from any of the guys in the group?
Yeah, I just like to quickly thank Jonathan for being here. I mean, he and I have met personally. I've attended the advanced group down at El Camino a few times when I was in San Francisco for treatment, and I've been online several times with him. And like our group here tonight, I mean, they've attempted to work with advanced guys, and I've been very impressed with the work that Jonathan's done, the advocacy work he's done for helping other guys. He's a pretty steady, knowledgeable hand. So I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you for the work you've done. I'm sure you have lots to contribute with us too.
Right. We hope you'll continue to stay with us and add to the knowledge base that we have here.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. So we will then move along to our next new person, Jim Stevens. Jim, are you there? Yes.
Yes, I am. Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jim. So now you've heard the drill. So I'm going to ask you more or less the same questions. So how old are you?
Okay. I'm 58.
Well, okay. Where do you live?
I live in Rochester, New York.
Okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in March of 2019.
Okay. And at that time, I assume they did a biopsy and you had a PSA level. How was it diagnosed?
It was diagnosed via biopsy. The Gleason score was 3+4, and at that time, based on previous MRIs and the digital exam, they felt it was confined to the prostate. I did end up having bone scan, PET scan, regular CT scan, and there was nothing at that time that showed that it was anywhere but the prostate. So I did elect to have prostatectomy. That was in May of 2019, and during the surgery they did find. Okay, so go ahead.
No, I mean, so what was your PSA before they took out your prostate?
8.8.
Okay. And so then you had prostate surgery, and during the surgery they discovered
there was lymph node involvement. There were 7 of 18 lymph nodes involved, and I'm sorry, 5 of 18 lymph nodes, and seminal vesicle involvement.
So then,
based on that, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Based on that, what did they do?
Well, because of they did refer me to a radiation oncologist. There's the interpretation based on the fact lymph nodes are involved. He said that the number of lymph nodes involved wasn't enough to suggest radiation would be beneficial. because at that time I was really trying to avoid going on hormone therapy, but they ended up going on Lupron and prednisone, and that was started in July of 2019.
Why? I guess they gave you prednisone along with Lupron. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. It was Lupron and bicalutamide. Sorry.
Okay. Right, got
Thanks for questioning that.
it. And then that was in 2019.
Yeah, and my by the end of the summer of 2019, my PSA was undetectable. So things were looking promising.
Right.
And then in February of 2020, the PSA started to rise. I think it was a 0.3, and continued to monitor. And by the, I think it was, yeah, and basically by the spring, we did, because the PSA had gone up to spring of 2019, the PSA was hanging out there, and they started me on, they added, this is when they added abiraterone and prednisone.
Right, right.
That would have been
gotcha.
the summer of 2019.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was,
Summer
my
of
dates are
2020.
completely wrong. That would have been the summer of 2020.
2020.
Yes.
Right.
Because my PSA was slowly going up. It had gone up to, by July 2nd of 2020, it was 1.7. And that's when they,
so at that point, who was being treated? Who's helping you through this decision?
Yeah, I'm actually at the Wilmot Cancer Center, which is part of the University of Rochester Medical Center.
Right. There's somebody very good there.
The oncologist is Dr. Deepak Sahasrabudhe.
Uh-huh. And is he a GU oncologist?
No, he's a general oncologist, medical oncologist.
Okay. So one of the things
I had never even heard of a specialized GU oncologist until 2 weeks ago when I attended this first meeting.
Uh-huh. Well, there is a very good one in Rochester.
Okay.
Right. Rick, we keep forgetting his name.
And you're hoping I remember his name, aren't you? Didn't we have to tag team this last time, Dr. Van?
That's why I wanted to have a spreadsheet so we wouldn't have to.
Well, most of the time I can remember, but this guy's got a fancy name, and
something.
I'll look it up right now. What? Vanveldhuizen, was it?
Van something Heisen, right? I don't remember exactly, but I think
okay.
At this point, Jim, those of us with experience would recommend strongly that you move over to a GU medical oncologist who really will have a little better handle on the disease and potential treatments. So, for example,
okay.
Now what's your current PSA is what?
Okay, so jump ahead. It seemed to be going all right. And then I ended up having, in addition to the abiraterone and prednisone in the summer of 2020, I also then started external beam radiation. I had 35 treatments because scans confirmed lymph nodes in my abdomen and in the prostate, and a lesion in my prostate bed. So,
okay, so what kind of scans were those?
CT scans, bone scans. There was no bone involvement at that time. It was just the lymph nodes and the.
Did you have any kind of a PET scan?
Yeah, back before the prostate surgery.
All right.
It really didn't show
Well, not-
anything except the prostate itself.
Right, but not recently.
No.
Okay, so you had EBRT, and then what?
And then PSA started to move back down. By December of 2020, it was at 0.3. And then at that point, I was pretty much on a 3-month schedule because I was on Lupron injections, and it was a 3-month cycle.
Right.
And by March, my PSA had gone up again, and I experienced terrible pain in my left clavicle area, and they had already had scans scheduled based on the fact that my PSA had gone up again. And this was now, it would have been in April. The bone scan confirmed it had moved to the bone, particularly my clavicle area. And we changed over to enzalutamide. They took me off the prednisone, switched me over to enzalutamide along with the Lupron.
So what
And it
was your PSA when they did that?
So by when they moved me to the abiraterone, PSA was 2.32. By the end of April, it had gone to 3.75. It dropped down to 2.91 in May. And by June, it was up to 4.5. And we started another round of radiation. The radiation oncologist referred to it as salvage radiation, directly to the clavicle region because I had a lot of pain there.
So,
and it was just 5 rounds of radiation. It did stop the pain, but it didn't. It was not meant to cure anything. It was just meant to really diminish anything in that particular spot. The PSA then started to, by the first part of July, it had started to double almost every week, to the point where it maxed out. Actually, there's another story here. Because we obviously did more scans, there was more bone involvement. In early August, the scans were done on August 3rd. Actually, I'm sorry, the end of July, they found a lesion in my right femur, just below the joint.
okay.
They were concerned of pathologic fractures, so I ended up immediately going in and having what they call my femur was reinforced with titanium rod and screws to prevent fractures.
So,
and then PSA continued to rise. It maxed out at 42 in the middle of August, and we had already planned to start chemotherapy. So we started chemotherapy on the first round was, yes. First round was, I think it was August 23rd. Yes. It was 2 weeks after my son's wedding. So, and I just had my 5th round of doxycyl today. Just started to have that infusion today.
Mm-hmm.
And the PSA has stabilized to around, as of last week, it was, as of last Friday, it was 30. And it's been around 30 for the last 6 weeks.
Okay. So I think the first thing we would say is that I think you need to get a GU oncologist who knows their stuff. Right. This
All right.
is your disease is not, you've already been through 3 different drugs, right? You've already been through ADT plus Abi plus Enza plus Taxol, which means
Yep.
you've used up a fair bit of the armamentarium. And it's going to take somebody sophisticated to figure out what's the optimal road ahead. And I would not trust the general oncologist to do this. And Len, maybe you can speak to this.
So let me say just a couple of quick things here. Vanveldhuizen is the doc that we recommend.
Yes.
And it was a joint effort between myself and Jonathan Starr. I really want to connect you with Tracy Saville, who isn't in the group
I know
tonight.
Tracy.
Oh, you know Tracy?
I know Tracy. Yeah, I worked with him. He's the one that referred me to this group.
Okay. So Tracy sees Vanveldhuizen.
Okay, what's the doctor's name?
One at a time. Hold your horses.
It's in the chat window.
Tracy sees Vanveldhuizen, so he can talk to you about him. We've put his name in I put his name and a link to him in the chat box. The chat box is the little question bubble on the top right, where there's usually a lot of action in these groups. So if you click on that on the top right, you'll find the last entry is a live link. You can click on it and you'll find his name. But
excellent.
Tracy cast around quite a bit, and we eventually impressed on him that he needed to find the right guy. And we knew of Vanveldhuizen from even before, but Tracy has probably been the greatest source for us of endorsement for Vanveldhuizen. So that's the first thing I want to say to you. The second is, and Tracy may have told you, if you don't know, we'll sign you up. We have a under 60s group for men with disease similar to yours. We've got a couple of guys in the group today who participate in there. Tracy participates in there. We'd love for you to attend so that you can surround yourself with younger men who are peers. Do we have your email, Jim?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So I'll make sure that if you're not already signed up for it, I'll make sure you are signed up for it. Let's hope that you get a good response to this
Chemo.
docetaxel chemo. Have you been sequenced? Have you had any sequencing done?
Yes, I have. Mainly because when I was first diagnosed after my surgery, because of my family history, my father, both paternal and maternal grandfather, my mother had breast cancer. They immediately, and I was also the youngest in the family to be diagnosed. They recommended genetic testing. I had the testing and I was negative for any known markers at the time. I have subsequently had the tumor and circulating, the blood test for any circulating cells. They were able to find cells and where I identify cancer cells in the blood. And bottom line is at that point, that's why we went off the abiraterone in this past summer. It's unlikely that basically it confirmed the castrate resistance from what I could tell.
Well, did they find any particular mutations in the tumor?
I believe so, and I can't remember what it was. I think the mutation is what indicated that continued hormone therapy was unlikely to respond. There was also some comment that it may have actually be susceptible to a drug, I cannot remember, that they typically use either for colon cancer or something else. And I may have been misspoken there.
I
not
am wondering,
necessarily. What I would say to you is let us know what
yes,
those mutations are. Take a look at your report and let us know. But I think
Okay.
that, but you've got to get your ass over to a GU med onc. You've got to switch, and I'm pretty certain he's at Wilmot, if I
no, he
remember
is.
correctly.
Yeah,
He's
he
for
is.
sure.
I've got
For
him.
sure,
I looked at
for
the
sure he's
I looked
Wilmot.
at. Yep. I just looked up his biography. He's got UR medicine all over him. So.
Right. So we
Yeah.
think that's, and I would just pick up the phone tomorrow morning and make an appointment with him.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, he'll have your records. The nice that you've been at U of R, he'll have your records.
Yeah.
He'll be able to sort of go over where you are without having, but on the other hand, he may want to see other scans, but probably not till after you finish docetaxel.
Right.
But I think.
Yeah, because I just started the 5th round, and there's 5 more rounds to go.
5 more?
Yeah. So,
10.
Yep.
this is a bit of a problem to me. You're the second guy I've heard. We had a guy on last week, similar 10 rounds. I don't know where that protocol comes from. I mean, we're not docs, we can't give you medical advice, but I can tell you that first time that docetaxel is used, as in your case, we rarely hear about it being used more than 6. And if you're not responding after 6, they need to adjust it. So the first question I would suggest you ask Dr. Vanveldhuizen is, why am I getting 10? And
Right.
do we need to adjust this? And do we need to add something to it? Maybe, carboplatin, depending on what showed up. But it's not, I don't know, maybe Jonathan Starr has heard in his group of people getting 10 rounds initially, but it's not something we hear of. Now, do we hear about people getting a lot of docetaxel? Yeah, Ken Anderson's had 24, I think. But that's a follow-up treatment. He does well on it, and it's being used to stabilize him. It's a different situation to yours.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else hear of like 20? This 10, 10 times first time off the bat?
Well, we heard it last week, I think, right? And it's not part of any set of guidelines. Right? 6 rounds is what's in the guidelines. And then they reevaluate. But the plan for 10 is very unusual.
Jim, how are you doing
where
5 rounds? How are you feeling?
I feel okay. I mean, I seem to get a lot of bone pain. I just had the infusion today, so if it goes like the last 4, by Thursday afternoon, Friday, I'll have a lot of bone pain, and
so
then by the weekend, I'll be okay.
Did they give you any bone protection? Are you taking
Yeah,
any
I had an
agents?
Xgeva.
Okay.
I had an Xgeva shot today. I get that every other round.
Okay.
A lot of the bone pain, though, can be from the Neulasta that kicks in, stimulates
Right.
the bone marrow.
Right. So,
and I do have fatigue, and I do have some neuropathy in my feet, but it's not severe. It's not anything that, I mean, there's times when it's annoying more than anything else.
Right. But that neuropathy will go along with the number of doses of Taxol you get.
Yeah, they're definitely keeping track of that, because based on the lack of side effects, that's the one that they are really paying attention to, because they want to know if it gets worse, gets more frequent.
So
she
anyway,
told me today that may, yeah.
So do you have any questions for us?
No, but it's nice to know about, you basically did answer, because I knew from the last time you talked about the GU oncologist, so I wanted to get a little bit more information, and you did, so I'll look into that tomorrow.
So please do that, and then please keep coming back and let us know how things are going, because I think you definitely benefit from the knowledge base that this group has, and we really want to make sure that you get the best care you can get.
And Herb, does
Yes,
anybody in
I
the group
appreciate
have,
that.
does anybody in the group
Economic
have
care.
questions?
Yeah, I do.
Hold on 1 minute.
Comments?
I've got one. Jim, I'd like to know, when did you have the liquid biopsy for the CTCs? What was your PSA at that time?
When I had the biopsy,
Well, you had a liquid biopsy, right? You talked about CTCs, circulating tumor cells.
I don't know. Oh, the
You said they didn't find it.
yeah, there was in I'm looking at it right now. That was in May of this year that I had that. Foundation 1, I think, is the that may have, yeah.
PSA was what?
At that time, the PSA, I think it was, so we're talking in April, I said.
Well, my point, where I was going
Yeah,
with
it was just under 4, 3.75.
Okay, so now it's 30, right? You
Yeah.
might want to talk to your doctor about getting another CTC count, because it's kind of surprising that they wouldn't find any CTCs as aggressive as your cancer seems to be, and with a PSA
Well,
like that.
they did find something. I just the report's not here in front of me. And I can't remember what it was. There was a mutation.
You want to find that really quickly, because it might influence your further chemo. You want to dig that out and get back to Rick or Herb or somebody on this call, because it's important. And you might, so that you'll have some fuel to talk to the GU medical oncologist with.
Okay.
And then after chemo is finished, assuming your new GU oncologist cuts you off at 6 treatments of docetaxel, if it were me, I would talk to your GU oncologist about Xofigo. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's radium-223.
Can you spell that?
XOFIGO. Or you can just say radium-223.
Oh, okay, I have heard of that.
Yeah. I don't
There
know.
was something,
Well,
my wife actually looked into that, and she didn't think I qualified. But
I mean, I wonder about the lymph nodes, Len, whether there's something still there.
Well, yeah, that's true. If you have a lot of lymph nodes, then
and Len, the other thing I would say is the PSMA is going to definitely get approved. The lutetium's going to get approved pretty quickly, and I mean, they're working now on the logistics issues, and even though we've been told that prior radium will not impact your eligibility for lutetium, I think that if it were me, I would probably hold my horses and try and get a PSMA-based radionuclide rather than a calcium-based radionuclide.
Right. I would say
I brought up the PSMA scan today, and they're going to. I didn't actually see the oncologist today. I saw the nurse practitioner, who I like very well. She is definitely going to bring that up to him. That is not offered in Rochester, but it is offered at a location in Buffalo, which is only 90 minutes down the road. So
here's the
definitely
thing.
a possibility.
Here's the thing for you. It would be helpful, because it might be able to identify where your pain is coming from, and maybe that pain could be treated. But that's the extent, in my view, that a PSMA would be useful for you. What we're talking about is using a similar technology, PSMA, to treat your disease, kind of like chemo would treat your disease. This is what we were talking about at the beginning of the call today.
Right.
Okay.
But Rick, once again, you would need a PSMA scan to show the avidity before
Yes,
they start pumping
absolutely.
you in.
Right. We'd have to prove that you made PSMA. So Herb's absolutely right. But I don't think that's what was in your mind when you were thinking about getting a PSMA scan.
No, it wasn't.
But I think, look, I think if Vanveldhuizen is as good as we think he is, he's going to know all this stuff.
Right.
And I think you want to get to him, ask these questions immediately. And I don't want to be rude. I want to welcome you back. Welcome to our group, and please come back. Especially let us know next week how you got to Vanveldhuizen and how soon he can see you. But we do have a bunch of guys that I want to try to get in tonight before we run out of time.
Absolutely,
So,
I can appreciate that, and thank you for letting me have my time.
We're here to help you move this along. I think the best advice we can give is right now, get yourself a different GU-onc before you finish your 6 rounds of Taxol.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We will move on. So to begin, David Muslin. What's new?
Okay, just wanted to get your input from the group. Can you guys hear me okay?
We are having trouble hearing, at least I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah, I am too, Dave.
No, can't really tell shit. I give you 1 second.
Use the old call-in trick, David, and we'll come back to you. Okay, we'll come back to you right after this. Just call in and then we'll see your beaming face and we will hear you properly. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I haven't been confused all night so far.
That's right. Somebody's got to confuse Jake.
That's it.
Okay. Alan, what's up?
Sure. Just an update. You recall a few weeks ago, I said I had a PSMA scan with Pylarify at Mount Sinai. They found a few nodules in my lungs. And I got to talk to 2 different oncologists.
We are having.
It's all right. Well, we'll be good now.
All right.
So go ahead, Alan.
I talked to both Dr. Rowe at Mount Sinai and also Dr. Chen at Sloan Kettering. I had a second CAT scan in addition to the PET CT scan. They wanted a little bit more definition on the particularly one of the nodules. And that one was a little under 1 centimeter in diameter. It was about 0.8 millimeters, so a third of an inch. The others were much smaller. And both doctors, and I saw Dr. Rowe first, and he said, well, it'd be great if you can get a biopsy. And I mentioned that last time. And anyway, Dr. Chen had an interventional pulmonologist and an interventional radiologist look at that data. And basically, it was less than a 50% chance of getting a biopsy. And before they even said that, my reading on lung biopsies, basically, it's too risky I don't see any benefit at all. This was very close to my heart. And of course, the heart is beating, the lungs are moving. And I said, no, let's not do that. And so basically the plan going forward is to treat with Lupron plus enzalutamide and get a CAT scan right before treatment, which will be early next year, and then monitor the size of the nodule with the CAT scan. And probably Dr. Rowe thought I should be on that treatment for a year. And Dr. Chen at Sloan said, well, at least 6 months, probably a year. The thinking was to hit it hard while I'm, able to tolerate whatever the side effects are. I mean, I'm 67, I'll be 68 at the beginning of the year. And so hopefully the fatigue from enzalutamide would be
So
tolerable.
Alan, do you consider that young or old? We look at it as young.
I look at it as young too. That's right. In another 10 years, I don't know how I'll be. So anyway, hopefully that's the right choice of drugs. I mean, I'll certainly bounce it off of you. Both doctors were not big in my case, for whatever the reason, on abiraterone plus prednisone. There was debate between enzalutamide and apalutamide, and I guess they said they're both similar, but enzalutamide was thought to be okay, but a little bit less side effects with respect to blood pressure, etc. And so that's where I am. Hopefully it's the right approach, but I don't see any risk, and hopefully the side effects are tolerable. I don't know how many people typically get a lot of fatigue. I'll take any input on that, but I've had Lupron in the past for 6 months. I didn't have much trouble with that, although again, I got to watch out on overeating and make sure I don't lose muscle mass.
Right. Any comments?
Yeah, Alan, I think they probably want you on enzalutamide, because if you become resistant at some point and they want to follow up with a second anti-androgen, it's better to sequence enzalutamide followed by abiraterone than the other way around.
Ah, okay.
You have a greater chance of success with the Abi after enzalutamide.
Okay, that's good. I'll also add one comment, is that I will have to go on one of the bone building drugs. It's not finalized yet because I already have osteopenia. And my doctor, at least preliminarily, said, he says, I don't think Prolia or Zytiga is really the right thing for you, only because once you go on Prolia, you've got to stay on it or change to another drug. He said new data or recent data says that any bone mass you gain with Prolia will be lost if you stop it, versus zoledronic acid, that bone density increase is somewhat permanent. Hopefully that's true. I don't really know.
I have not heard that. I would like to see the data.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard this. Who was it that told you that? Dr. Chen?
Yes, Dr. Chen. He
Yeah,
said,
I checked that with Dr. O, to be honest. We heard that a while back, that if you stop Prolia, which is, by the way, the same as denosumab or Xgeva, that it loses impact. But then we heard that was debunked.
okay.
Anybody remember that discussion? No. I'm just not so sure.
All right, that's good to raise it. I'll check on it and find out more.
Yeah, and the other thing which Jake puts in there, which I was thinking, but I wasn't going to raise it, but Jake's put it in. Usually you take the best sequence is abiraterone followed by enzalutamide, unless there is a certain reason why enzalutamide should go first. And we've had that in certain situations where guys were not suitable for abiraterone, and so they did enzalutamide first. I'm puzzled why they're adding enzalutamide rather than abiraterone.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. I reversed.
Yes, you did reverse it, Len. And it's not the preferred sequencing is Abi and then potentially Enza.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the reason, except both doctors said that. I wonder if it could be related to the osteopenia. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, again, we're not docs, but I don't think so. And I was osteopenic when I went on my Lupron, so know a little bit about that. I would ask them, what is there a reason why they're giving you the Abby before, and unless, and this is Herb, this you would know, would the prednisone have any bearing on the osteopenia?
Actually, Mark, you're going to answer that question.
Oh, Mark, yeah, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, I think the steroid certainly can have an effect on osteopenia, but the dose that's used along with abiraterone is generally quite low.
Yeah,
So,
it's 5 milligrams.
yeah, so I think that, again, the standard would be to start with abiraterone before looking at enza.
What about side effect wise? Doesn't abiraterone come with more potential side effects? The high blood pressure, the potassium issues. I mean, could that be part of it?
When you're on the steroid, it shouldn't be an issue. That's why you're taking the prednisone with it.
Right.
It may be insurance coverage that they're looking at. Abiraterone is not always covered, and it can be quite costly. I'm not sure on enza.
No, I mean,
I'm on
my experience with abiraterone, because I started out with that a little over last year with the prednisone. It actually impacted my liver. My ALT went through the roof. So they dropped me from 1,000 milligrams to 750, and boom, everything was back to normal.
Yeah.
That is true. The liver, you have to do hepatic function tests if you're getting Abby.
One of the other things,
true, because that's very true, because it's processed. The abiraterone is actually processed through the liver. Len, you've studied the comparison of side effects. Can you, I mean, other than outside of darolutamide, which we know is better, what's the comparison between abiraterone and enzalutamide?
Well, it's all subjective, but generally, guys feel more fatigue with enzalutamide than they do with Abby.
Yes.
Yeah, like I think Alan was saying, there's high blood pressure issues. If you have metabolic syndrome, if you're pre-diabetic, you don't want to be, you're worse off with Abby than with enzalutamide.
Yeah. So I don't want to cut anybody off, but Alan, I think you want to go check this out.
I will.
I mean, I'm afraid this is going to be an extended session if I don't move things.
No, I'm fine. I got what I needed. I have some now follow-up actions. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one thing, Len, can you put that link to the piece that you wrote on the blog about the comparison of side effects? Could you search it out?
Oh, between all the lutamides
and abiraterone.
The one with the different steroids that are used with Abby.
No. The one with the comparison between the second line anti-androgens that you did on the blog. Could you put that link in for Alan?
Okay.
Okay. Let's go back to David. Maybe we can hear him now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Success. All right, so interesting, we're just getting off this topic. I'm trying to find out or ask the group of when is the best time to start darolutamide. By the way, I was on enza, I really suffered on enza. I did better on Abby, but still didn't do great. I've been on Lupron for 22 months now, and I dropped the Abby in September, and my last Lupron shot should wear out mid-December. I'm seeing Russell Schmulowitz now, who I love, who seems to be just a regular guy, very easy to communicate with. So I asked him, when should I transition to darolutamide? When should I start the darolutamide? He said, if you suffered so much on enza and Abby, he said, why don't you wait until your testosterone starts to rise and then get on darolutamide. He says, you suffered so much, why suffer on 2? Just wait. And it makes me a little bit nervous. It's, I was thinking I start on it right away and then let the Lupron wear off. But he said, no, he says, wait, watch it. We'll watch your T level every 30 days. And as soon as it starts to rise, boom, you'll go on darolutamide. Any thoughts?
It sounds reasonable, because if you don't, if the recovery from Lupron could take quite a while.
Right.
And if you don't have any testosterone, then it doesn't matter if you have a blocker in place or not.
Yep. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and so that's what I'm going to do. I just wanted to check it out with the group.
David, let's defer to our expert on this. We have a resident expert on this topic in my fratello, Mr. Len Sierra.
Well, what Herb, I agree completely what Herb said. You don't have to worry about blocking your androgen receptors if your T levels are at castrate levels, So you don't have to be nervous about that, David. As your doc said, let it rise, give yourself a break, monitor the PSA, and if it starts moving up and you get nervous, then you can start with darolutamide. But there's really no need to rush into it.
The only comment I'd make on that is that you still have adrenal production of androstenedione, which you may not pick up by just measuring testosterone. So it kind of depends on where you're going. But to say that you're just worrying about Lupron blocking androgens and that wearing off, it doesn't give you the whole picture.
Yeah, but Mark, you still have that in the presence of Lupron.
Right, but in the presence of Lupron, he was on enzalutamide, so he was blocking it there. And before that, he was on abiraterone, which was shutting off the adrenal gland.
Right.
So now is the first time that you would have some unopposed androgens. That coming off measuring testosterone is going to tell you when the testicles wake up, but it's not going to tell you what happens on the adrenal.
Great,
so will the PSA, watching my PSA then, will that confirm that then?
I think
how do I test that, Mark?
I think I would do that as well. You can measure the hormone androstenedione to see if there's androgens coming from the adrenal gland. But I think measuring the PSA, and if the PSA doesn't go up and it's been up in the past, I think that gives you a good clue that you're missing something if you see it rise.
Got it. So I'll be checking PSA and T level every 30 days.
Right.
After December, I've been doing after December, and we'll just watch it and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Mark, Dr. Mark, I should tell you that David has not been on enzalutamide or abiraterone for 6 months now. Just the Lupron.
No, I got off in September, Rick. I got off Abby in September.
Okay.
Okay. I think I've got to kind of hustle along tonight. I'm sorry.
Keep going. Thank you, everybody. All we needed.
Jeff, Marky, what's up?
No, I didn't have anything. Thank you.
I thought you did. Okay, fine. Jake, tell us what's happening.
Okay. Thank you, Herb. Basically, status quo for me. After I've been on oral chemotherapy, cyclophosphamide, for about 200 days now, and after several months of some rapid increases and a heart-stopping 219-point increase in September, it went up to 794. But in October, it went up 17 points, and then just last week, it only went up 6 points. So. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't understand exactly what's going on, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue, as I said, status quo, and I'm going to give it another 30 days. Even if it's stabilizing it at 800 or 807, and it's not going up, I don't know. Does anybody have any ideas on that one? But I'm thinking status quo, just stay with the course for them, at least for the time being, for the next 30 days.
It makes sense, Jake. I mean, obviously, we'd all like to see it go lower,
Right.
but that would require probably more intervention. Right. And so that's the trade-off.
Right.
Is this a daily oral version of chemo?
Yes. Yes, it is. Take
And
one pill a day with dexamethasone, one pill a day.
And how did you get started on this?
I went and got a second opinion from a Dr. Antanaracus at Johns Hopkins, who has now moved on. Joel's going to tell us about him. He suggested it, you know, because he knew my history, he had all my records, and he suggested trying it. And then, of course, right in the middle of that, he left, so I can no longer approach him. But that's where the idea came from. And I know he had a good reputation, and I decided to go with it. My doctor had never even heard of cyclophosphamate because it's an old drug. It's, you know, it's probably 10, 15 years old at least. Maybe
more than that. More than that.
More than that.
And why did you go that direction?
Well, because I had been through, because nothing else was working. I'd been enzalutamide, abiraterone, apalutamide. They all stopped working. I went through the equivalent of about 8 sessions of docetaxel, and none of them was working. So he suggested it, and you know, my doctor had run out of ideas. She wanted to put me on another chemo, which I'm very leery about, and she didn't want to put me on. So,
Jonathan, Jake's story is a very long and interesting one that, unfortunately, tonight we probably don't have time to go through.
Yeah,
but cyclophosphamide was about what was left in the armamentarium for his condition.
And to my way of thinking, it's doing something. It's not, as Herb said, it's not bringing it down, but it's doing something. It's stabilizing it, and I guess that's good.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, great, Jake. That's good news. By the way, I waved by your house twice today. So.
Did you see me wave back?
Right. Okay, we'll move on. Eric, tell us what's up.
Yeah, so I don't have much news. I been in contact with John Hopkins to get a GU oncologist, and I requested Dr. Marshall or Dr. Pinta, and they put as of this morning, the doctor sent me by email or text message that he's placed a referral for me for a GU oncologist, and I'm just waiting to hear that. I did ask about possibly getting back on Orgovix in the meantime, but they didn't respond to that.
Yeah, I think until you see another doc, they're probably not going to do anything.
Okay.
So I wouldn't let. I know you put in the request, but did you try to contact the particular Dr. Marshall by writing to her email or her?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't did that.
I think you might just do that. Go try to contact Dr. Marshall straight away. I mean, Carl can tell you, about her. We did last week that Carl liked her a lot. And so I think she'd be great for you.
Okay.
Carl, do you have an email address by any chance for Dr. Marshall?
I do it through the Epic system, the MyChart.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So, if we could find an email address, we get it. I think we could. I think we've got one for Pienta.
I can try. I can certainly track down an email address, but not while I'm moderating.
Yeah. So I'll make sure. Eric, do you have Eric's email address, Herb?
No, I don't. But you.
I'll send it to you. I'll give it you right now. And you know, let's run through with Dr. Marshall first. If we don't get anywhere with Dr. Marshall, we can definitely get to Dr. Pienta.
Okay.
Eric, did you get my email, Eric?
Yes, Jim? Yes, I did get your email.
It hurts my feelings that you didn't respond to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. I listened to the call, and they were moving you off of Pienta anyway. But I think very highly of them, and I'm happy to talk to you anytime.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and then other than that, you know, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm continuing to exercise. You know, I just started doing I started meditating, and I'm feeling good, but I'm just a little anxious to get going and see what the next steps are going to be.
Right. I think that's very much in order. Okay. Well, let us know. We want to bird dog this for you, and you know, keep us in the loop.
Will do.
Okay, Carl, what's up?
What's up? I don't know. When you first asked me, I didn't ask for time.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay, fine. Joel.
Yes. Okay. I found myself this summer with the PSA rising rapidly from 0.9 to 2.1. And so I went to Walter Reed, got a PSMA PET scan. Then went to, they said I had prostate cancer on my right neck. Then I went to Johns Hopkins and asked them for a second opinion. They said, okay, we'll give you one, and we'll get the guy who invented the PSMA to read the scan. Right. So they did. And so the Johns Hopkins agreed with Walter Reed that I needed, that I had prostate cancer in my neck, and that I needed an MRI to verify it. And so Johns Hopkins gave me an MRI. MRI says you don't have prostate cancer on your neck. And so I said, so I wrote 3 email messages to Dr. Denmead about, you know, what do I do next? What do you want me to do? Here's some suggestions. No answer back for 40 days. So I said, the hell with this. I contacted Dr. Antonarakis, and I'm going to see him. I'm flying to Minneapolis tomorrow. Going to see him on Wednesday morning. But to continue with the story, I then on my own went to see a medical oncologist that I already knew in town, Dr. Sarma, who is a head and neck cancer specialty medical oncologist. He ordered an Axeman PET scan from MicroPET Center in Fairfax. Called the MicroPET Center, and the girl on the phone says, well, let me talk to the doctor about this Axeman PET scan. Doctor came back, says, we refuse to give it to you for 2 reasons. Number one, Medicare will only pay for 80% of it if you have metastatic prostate cancer, which you do. So we refuse to give it to you because it's going to cost you some money. But the main reason we're going to refuse to give it to you is that the PSMA is better in all instances than the Axeman. And I said, well, you misunderstand the situation. So I told him the whole story like I'm telling you now. And so we're trying to determine whether who is right, the MRI or the PSMA. So he says, come on in here. So I sat down with 2 doctors who are experts. That's why they do all these read reports, cancer type radiology stuff. And so he says, according to your PSMA, I can't determine anything because it lights up, but it may be arthritis because you have arthritis all over your body. And he says, we go back and get me the 4 scans the NIH gave you, which I did. came back home, drove back there with 4 more scans. And he said, most likely you had arthritis 2 years ago back then when you went to NIH. And most likely then I'll know for sure it's arthritis. Well, when I get back there, he says, well, 2 years ago you didn't have it. So this is brand new. So then he puts me through the CAT scan and a CT scan. And it revealed, again, nothing on the neck, but he found another spot on T9. So then he gave me another CAT scan and another bone scan on that area of my back. And again, he couldn't figure out if it was arthritis or prostate cancer. So in the meantime, I changed my diet 2 months ago to no meat, no dairy, no pasta, no dessert, no alcohol. And so in the meantime, my PSA as of last Monday was 1.1. It dropped from 2.1 to 1.1 in 1 month. So I don't know if my diet caused it, but anyway, that's where I was. And I was based on a briefing that I saw at Cancer Support Community with Dr. Morgan's talking to Dr. Ryan. It appeared that, well, now I've lost it. I shouldn't have gone on that tangent. Anyway, back to the story. So then he sends a letter to Dr. Eblin, Dr. Sarma, and my urologist, Dr. Shank, and he says, repeat the PSMA in January, and let's see if this cancer is progressing. So I don't know what's happening, but that's the latest. I'm going to see. I've sent Antonio Rakis already all the CD information and all the reports and everything, so he's ready to talk to me. He knows my full story at Masonic Cancer Center in Minneapolis. So I don't know what I have. Right now, I have no prostate cancer, but I have a PSA that's declining. So I don't know if my bone showing that the cancer was there, but now my immune system is destroying it, so it's lighting up even bigger on the bone. I have no idea what's going on.
Joel, I wish I had your fortitude to give up all those things.
Well, it's making a difference. I don't know if it's making a difference with my immune system or my cancer or what's going on. I mentioned it to 2 doctors so far. Even today, I went to see my primary care physician, and she looked at me with a blank look and said, basically, I could hear what she was thinking. She was thinking, you don't cure prostate cancer with diet. And also mentioned it to my urologist last week, and he looked at me with a blank stare and said, keep the diet going. That's all he had to say. So, diet doesn't play well with doctors, at least these doctors we're dealing with.
Joel, one question. Did you say that the PSMA scan lit up with arthritis?
That's what they said. They said that the PSMA does light up with arthritis, yes. And that's why it's confusing to these radiologists, because if you have a lot of arthritis, I found out I have arthritis very heavily in my 2 shoulders, which I didn't know I had. I know I had it in my hips because they've been replaced already. I know I had it in my knees, but I didn't know I had it in my shoulders.
Wow, I've never heard that before. Okay.
I was going to comment exactly the same as Jonathan, and I've never heard before that PSMA lights up as a result of arthritis. It's, these scans are supposed to be sensitive only to prostate-specific membrane antigen. Now, they do, if I'm not mistaken, they do 2 scans, don't they? They do the PET scan, and they also do a baseline CT scan so that they can locate exactly where in the body the PSMA is. I suspect what he might have said was, well, we're seeing all these things on the CT scan, but maybe he doesn't even realize he's got to compare the PSMA scan to the CT scan. That's why they do the two.
I am sure
Because
they must have known that.
but he's a head neck doctor, Herb. He
No,
doesn't know PSMA.
I was talking directly to the radiologist, Dr. Kistler at the Metro Pet Center. So no, this guy does this for a living. He's been doing it for over 20 years. So no, these
does what?
I think if someone's been reading PET scans for 20 years, they're not familiar with PET scans for prostate cancer. And I mean, you should, with a newer test, they've only been around a short while. And if you're going to see a generalist on this, you're not having someone looking at the scan who knows what they're doing. I think with all this bouncing back and forth, you need to see a top-notch GU nuclear medicine specialist. It's another person to bring in the mix, but it's got to be someone who is familiar with looking at PET scans for prostate cancer.
Okay, well, that's who I'm seeing. I'm seeing my GU medical oncologist, Dr. Anton Arakas at Masonic Cancer Center this coming Wednesday. So he's got the scans already. He's going to be double checking that. But the radiologist.
So, Mark, I just found a paper with a quick search entitled Pitfalls of PSMA PET. And one of the things that they cite is that inflammation can show increased PSMA uptake, even if it's not cancer.
Yeah, that's what the radiologist told me too, that it can light up, and lights up brightly, so you don't know where the exact area is. So you have to come along with a CT or an MRI before radiation oncologist can radiate it. That was the plan from Dr. Denmead, to give you SBRT.
It said, right, here's a quote from this paper. Densely sclerotic and markedly osteoblastic bone lesions are often found in the bone scan, are often mildly PSA avid, and then it basically says that you can see PSMA in some cases without cancer.
I'm wondering what the SUV max would be on something, and the fact that 2 years before, I think you said you had a scan 2 years earlier that was negative. So chronic arthritis might not, might not explain this.
The SUV max was 11.1. SUV max 11.1 on this latest PSMA scan.
No, but each spot has an SUV.
Okay, but there's only one spot. That's all they found. In my whole body, they found one spot on my neck. So we'll see what Anton Arakas says, but he's got all the info now, so he's just a matter of he'll probably tell.
But the guy at Hopkins who invented it, he couldn't tell.
No, he just agreed with Walter Reed. I mean, he supposedly looked at it, but he agreed that I had prostate cancer on my neck, and he agreed that I should have an MRI, and that's what they gave me. And by the way, when I called, Anton Arakas has now got a nurse, he's got a administrative assistant, and he's got a couple other helpers, and he is. When I talked to the nurse, she said, "Boy, there's a lot of people coming in from Johns Hopkins, just like you are." So a lot of people have given up Johns Hopkins, and they're moving over to Masonic Cancer Center.
Huh. Interesting.
So I'll try to find out the number, but
definitely want to hear more about this in the future when we figure this one out.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know as soon as I know something.
Great. Okay, Mark, you're next.
So I won't take too much time here. I had some vague abdominal pain that was moving around. PSA is still staying 0.02. but Doc wanted to do a CT. We did it anyway and found a 2-centimeter cyst in the body of the pancreas. So I had that biopsied today, and unfortunately, to run all the newer genomic testing that they do on the cells, it takes 4 weeks to get a final answer. But other than that, it was a piece of cake.
Yeah. And where was that done?
At the local Northside Hospital.
Uh-huh. You're still in Atlanta.
Till Friday.
What happens? You're moving?
We are driving across the country with the dog and deciding if we find the house, we stay. If not, we'll be back here in Atlanta.
Are you taking 10? Are you coming across on 10?
No, we looked at 10 versus 40, and going, we're going to do 40, probably coming back 10.
You better stop by. I just got Peter to stop by. I can get you a fantastic room at a very good price. Right, Peter?
So we will hit you back up. Now I have a reason to look for one over the other.
Take him up on it, Mark. Take him up on it.
I sure will.
Beautiful area.
Okay. Next, Harry, you are next.
Hello. I haven't been on for quite a while, but I thought I would just jump on to give an update, as it may be of some interest to some. Back end of last year, I had been on a holiday from my ADT for about almost 3 years when my PSA started slowly rising end of last year. So we went and had a bunch of scans done because insurance wouldn't cover Axeman scan at first. So I had to do these other scans and CTs, and it indicated something might be going on in my spine. Then we were later able to get the insurance company to approve an Axeman scan, and I had 2 lesions on my spine. So started ADT again with the addition of apalutamide, and also hooked up with a radiation oncologist who ultimately we zapped the 2 lesions. I think it's SBRT it's called. And so I am on ADT, and I was on Erlita, apalutamide. Then in September, I had a mild stroke. There was indication something was going on a week or so prior to the day I ended up in the emergency room, but I never thought a stroke never crossed my mind. So I was in the hospital for 3 days. They did all sorts of scans again and CTs, and everything was clear. So they really could not determine a cause for the stroke. This information was shared with my oncologist, who is Dr. Hussein, and there was some concern that the apalutamide may have had some contributing effect on me having a stroke. So the decision was made that I should stop taking that. So right now I just continue on ADT. It's working fine as it did the first time I had it, and similar side effects. But I've gone through it once. I'm kind of used to it now, and I'm retired, so it's a lot easier than it was when I was working full time and dealing with that stuff. But I was just curious if anyone else has heard of or experienced this type of a mild stroke. I have no really serious side effects. It basically impacted the left side of my body. So my left pinky and a ring finger and the side of my face here continues to feel a little tingly, but I really haven't lost any functionality. But because of this, now I'm really hesitant to go on any other medication should that become a need in the future. So I thought I would just share my experience and ask if anyone else has ever experienced something like this while on ADT and apalutamide.
There is a history of occurrence of stroke with enzalutamide, which is very similar. And there is a warning for the enzalutamide. I don't know about the apalutamide, but it's somewhere like around 2%, I think. It may even be less than that. May even be 1%. And maybe some of you guys, somebody here can remember. I haven't heard about it with apalutamide, but you know, there may be some transference. So Len, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I believe the mild stroke, mini stroke, is listed as a side effect for apalutamide. Apalutamide and enzalutamide are like kissing cousins. Their structure is very similar. I think maybe there might be one amino acid difference between the two of them. So it's not surprising that you know, they would have common side effects. And like Rick said, it's a very low incidence, but it is listed.
So
yeah, I did see that.
One thing I would suggest, I wish you luck with Dr. Huizen, but I would certainly suggest it, is tell her that, you know, if you want to add another androgen receptor blocker, you would like to try darolutamide because it doesn't cross the brain barrier.
Yeah,
even though you're not actually in line for it, they can get it for you on the basis of the stroke. But if she'll do it, you know, she's not.
I've read about that, and we discussed before I went on the apalutamide the different options for me to take, and the whole reason we did take the apalutamide with the ADT was just because it's a recurrence, and I got 2 lesions, which was really surprising to me because the highest my PSA got was 0.7, and I still got 2 lesions. So I'm of the belief, at least in my situation, that even though the PSA testing is coming in low, you know, that cancer is doing its dirty work, albeit at a maybe much slower pace. I never think that I believe it never stops taking its course. I think really it just slows it down. I mean, unless those lesions can happen very quickly, because I mean, like I said, my PSA never got above 0.7, and I ended up with 2 lesions. So,
Harry, were you doing scans in between the 3 years you were on holiday?
Not scans. We're just doing PSA regularly and testosterone testing. It wasn't until because my PSA was staying undetectable, and it wasn't until late last year that it went to 0.03, then 0.05, and I think it came to 0.1, and that's when we decided to start getting some scans done. And insurance was always, you know, really helpful.
I mean, well, even at 0.1, it's going to be tough to see stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
What do guys normally do when they're on holiday? How often should we get scanned? Every year? Every 6 months? Anybody have any thoughts?
Probably at least once a year. You can get an Acumen scan. Medicare will pay for at least one a year.
Yeah, I'm not on Medicare, and we had a really tough time with my insurance getting an Acumen scan because until it got up to 0.7, first we had to go through the hoops of getting all these other scans and nuclear bone scans, and then when that indicated something, then we had some ammunition to go back to the insurance with and say, hey, an Acumen scan is appropriate. We even had peer reviews to try and get it approved. And I was supposed to get one done this month as a follow-up, and the insurance once again denied it because my PSA is too low, which is because I'm on ADT now. So, you know, the question is, do I stop taking ADT to get the scan? it's crazy. I mean, insurance is not keeping up with the technology. I think, I don't know.
Harry, you're not over 65 yet, are you?
No, I'm 61.
Yeah. So, you know, if you were on Medicare, you'd find it a lot easier. The insurers are supposed to follow the Medicare process, but they don't.
Yeah, yeah. So, at any rate, that's just, I thought I'd just share my story right now. And right now, you know, it's undetectable, and my testosterone is around 20, but so otherwise things are fine. It's just that was a little, a bit of a surprise.
Okay. Interesting.
I'd like to throw in a couple quick comments. One is metastatic prostate cancer counts as a disability through Social Security. And if you go on Social Security disability, then within 2 years, 2 years after your, well, 2 years after you start receiving benefits, you're eligible for Medicare, even if you're not 65. And I know that because I did it myself.
Yeah.
And
it's not as simple as that anymore, Jonathan. In
Right.
theory, you're absolutely right. But what's happened in practice, and there are guys on this call who will tell you, is that whilst you should be immediately approved and you can backdate your date of, and Harry could backdate his date of diagnosis, I was able to do that too, they don't approve you so quick anymore. And
Right.
so it might be a lot more difficult, but I think what I do agree with Jonathan is that you might want to get an application in for SSDI right away, and if they do backdate you, you might be eligible for Medicare much quicker, and that might be with a Medicare secondary plan that might give you better insurance than what you have right now. Jonathan, would you agree with that?
yes, definitely.
Yeah. And I actually have excellent insurance. So that's why it was surprising to me that they would refuse it, but it's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because they base the use on what your PSA is, and if the drugs you're taking are effective, your PSA is going to be undetectable, and so therefore they're saying that, you know, you're not eligible in our estimation for an X-Men scan because your PSA is undetectable. So it's,
I mean, I think it's logical. I mean, all the literature say if your PSA is undetectable, the chances of picking up anything on Axemen or even Pylarify is very low. And so there's not going to be much information gained, and I can understand where that comes from.
Right. And when I had the last Axemen scan, I was only, I can't remember if it was 0.3 or 0.7, but it picked it up. So, I mean, a lot of people say it wouldn't, even at that number, you know, chances are not really good of picking things up, but it picked it up.
Well, once again, you got to remember, if you have very few lesions and your PSA is 0.7, it's all coming from a couple of localized spots. If you have many lesions and your PSA is 0.7, then it's going to be more diffuse and harder to pick up.
Yeah, true.
So anyhow, that we appreciate the update.
Sure, thank you.
So we're sort of out of time, but I wanted to see if we could, there are 4 people who joined us late, and if it's really important, we'd like to hear from you.
Herb, I thought Ed Clautice had an update for us.
Oh, Ed, right, he did.
I do. Okay.
Right, you're right, I missed it. Sorry.
No problem. I want to extend thanks to Herb and Jim Marshall. They were wonderful to me over the last week or so. I have an appointment with Paul Ford at MD Anderson on December 16th. On December 15th, I have an appointment with my Kentucky homegrown GU onc guy, in addition to also meeting with a radiation oncologist named Dr. St. Clair. I suspect that may be Xofigo or whatever you call that stuff, the radium, but I could not say that for certain. Anderson has requested, of course, all my stuff, all my records, but also the actual pathological materials for them to perform their own analysis on. Done.
So Ed, weren't you the gent who had also 10 times docetaxel? You had 10, didn't you have 10?
I had 10 and I had 10, and after 9, the PSA continued to decline right up to session 9, and I have not had a test after session 10. So if PSA decline is a measure of effectiveness, it in fact is effective. But neither here nor there. I've already swallowed this stuff. They shoved it in my veins, and I'm alive.
Right.
Guidance for what I should do relative to Dr. Ford.
To Dr. who?
Ford.
Corn.
Ford. Guidance.
Corn.
Yeah, my mistake. Corn. You're right.
Yeah, that's. I thought you said Ford and you meant corn. I was right.
I did, and I was totally screwed up.
Right. That's okay. So the one thing I would say to you is what we said before: is don't jump on the. If it were me, I would not jump on the Xofigo. On the Xofigo train before I had really figured out if there was a good chance of getting the PSMA.
Fair enough. To what extent would you respect Dr. Korn's advice?
I think he's great. Yeah, I mean, you know, okay. I think you've got to talk to Ken Anderson. He's flexible. The only concern I have is the concern I said to you last week is you, and Paul does not tend to do this, but you've really got to be a little skeptical about trials that are being run at MD Anderson.
But the other thing, Rick, is that, I mean, what you said last week was we really have to consider lutetium, but at least for the meantime, it's not available.
That's right. So
I think we got to go with.
Yeah, lutetium's been taken out of the equation probably till February or March.
Although here, you can they practically advertise giving you lutetium at a hospital in Israel and at a hospital in India, which I would be very leery of. Nonetheless, they actually put a price on the internet.
I wouldn't be leery of Israel.
No, I would not, by no means. India, maybe I'm a little leery. But why not get on an airplane and go to Israel?
Right, but the point is, Ed, that if you want it in this country, we didn't talk about, in my conversation, we never discussed outside. We know the issues they're facing are right now only applicable to the United States.
Right. Anyway, good enough. But I thank everyone for their wonderful help.
Okay. Pleasure. Look, we're going to end soon, but I just want to ask Gao Shang, Kang, Mark, or James Barnes if there's something you'd like to talk about tonight.
Well, whoever Kathy is.
Yeah, this is Mark. No thanks for this week, but maybe in a subsequent session. Thanks.
Okay. Of course, Mark. Welcome back. I know you haven't been with us for a long time, but please come on back.
Thank you.
Gaushan, did you have something to share or?
Oh, not this week. Thank you.
Okay. And Kang?
Thanks, Herb. I'm okay.
And then Kathy, tell us a little bit about why you're here.
Well, I'm the wife of Mark.
Oh.
Of Mark
okay.
Baldridge. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
And I'm listening in for the general information, and I do have a question, but I know it's running late, so I could hold it to the next 2-week session.
Well, I mean, why don't you ask it? We might be able to answer.
Oh, okay.
Kathy,
Well, on
Kathy,
my
we meet
husband's.
every week. We meet every week. It's not 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I just wondered if anybody in this group had on their path reports ever noted the presence of intraductal carcinoma.
Yes, many.
And the reason I ask is because what I've read about that is, you know, that it's associated with a poor prognosis, from what I can see. And so I guess my question is if people have had their doctors sort of adjust the treatment, you know, with that, because of that feature, you know, the intraductal, a different type of prostate cancer.
I actually listened to a presentation by Jonathan Epstein, who talked about this. He is like the most experienced prostate cancer pathologist. And he wasn't that concerned.
Okay, all right. Okay, it just, the articles I'd read, it just said, they keep saying associated with poor prognosis, associated with poor, and so I thought, does that?
It's all relative. It's all relative.
Okay.
Poor compared to what?
So I was getting the impression that, that, you know, that my husband's cancer would be, you know, less responsive to the standard therapies going along. And he's already at Gleason 9, has adverse, went through surgery, then had positive PSA 6 weeks after surgery. So he had to go start radiation and, you know, is on ADT. So, you know, I was just thinking, well, gee, things are.
And that's a pathological feature where they talk about the localization of where they find the cancer. But given the Gleason score, the idea that it may be other places as well, I don't think it's a significant finding compared to a lot of other things that you know.
Okay. Okay. So you wouldn't.
You have any thoughts? You turn on your mic.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if that was the PCRI conference presentation. And
No,
if it is.
It was not. It was a webinar, I heard.
It was the webinar he did for us, I think.
Not clear. I don't remember exactly when I heard it.
Yeah,
I think it was more. I think he did it for a university in Minnesota.
So, you know, I'd say a couple of things, Kathy. One is that the fact that the original biopsy was intraductal was probably a red flag warning of where Mark is now. In other words, when you have that type of intraductal evident on the first biopsy, you know that you may have difficult disease to deal with, which is where Mark is. Right. Secondly, you have a very, very good GU med-onc in Evan Yu.
Okay.
And I would say that Evan Yu is well aware of the impact of intraductal and what it might or might not do in changing treatment. So, you know, when you see him, you can say, Dr. Yu, you know, what are your thoughts on on the intraductal? But I think that it's as Herb says, it's kind of been discounted into the as they used to teach me at University of Chicago, it's been discounted into the price at this point in time.
Right, right. It's part of the big picture. It's really in there along with the other facets of what's going on. And I'm sure, and since chances are, if it, you know, it's not a separate cancer, it's not a separate entity, whatever treatments are good for wherever it is going to take care of that as well.
Oh, okay. Because I was picturing this as, you know, just sort of like, you know, the form of cancer that just would be totally unresponsive to all the other medicines.
It's just talking about where it is, not that it's any different from anything else that's being treated.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Thank you. All right.
So before everybody goes,
before everybody goes, we're going to sing happy birthday.
No. Hold on. I got something more important to do. There is a webinar on Thursday, I believe it is, November the 18th at 8:30 Eastern. And it's being put on by Charcheret. Now, Charcheret is a cancer organization that focuses mostly on BRCA disease, not only among Ashkenazi Jews, but especially among Ashkenazi Jews. We've done some programs with them before. They asked us to include this webinar, and frankly, I blew it and forgot to put it in the reminder. So this is going to be about the importance of getting germline testing. It's going to be about inherited mutations, and I'm putting the link right in the chat window right now. I should have done it earlier before people started dropping off, but it's there. And if you guys would like to attend, I'm sure you'll find it quite good. It's focused on men. So we've been on Charcheret's case to do something for men, that men can get BRCA mutations and other mutations too. And I think this might be their very first event focused on men rather than women. So just letting you know. How'd you like that, Dr. Perloe?
Just great.
Okay. Jimmy, are you going to lead us in this song?
I would, but you must have forgotten that I wanted time tonight, but that's okay.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. It can wait. It was not important. You must have known that.
No, Jimmy, it's more important than singing to me, Jimmy G.
I disagree. I think if we're going to talk about what I was going to say versus happy birthday, we got to do the happy birthday because I'll talk about what I was going to say tonight next time.
Jimmy, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You had to have known it was a lightweight share. You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lightweight. So there's an old song called Please Don't Talk About Me When I'm Gone. So Rick is obviously not familiar with the song because I wasn't here last week, but I listened to the recording and he's talking about me right there, saying that I was always bad at math and that's why I didn't know that 0.04 was less than 0.1, which is not true. What is true is that it's human nature. It's human nature. I think maybe it was from me. I'm so used to seeing less than 0.1 when I looked at my PSA. It said it was a different number and it had more digits in it. And the first thing I did, I
it was less.
First.
Yeah, it was less.
Questions later. It was a super sensitive scan. But my question is, Paul Frieda. The reason he brought it up is because Paul Frieda said, who is I don't think he's here anymore, but he said that his was less than 0.04, and mine was said less than 0.004. Is there any appreciable difference between those two?
No, absolutely
I didn't think
not.
so.
No,
that's why it wasn't important.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is talking about levels of measurement which probably are within the accuracy of the test.
I didn't think so. Now, here's the important thing though. Happy birthday to you.
Turn on your mics.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rick. Happy birthday to you. And what's more to tell you? Tanti goreate, tanti goreate, tanti gore para Richard, tanti gore.
Jimmy, all right. Jimmy,
where is Rich?
Could you make a choir out of this group, do you think, Jimmy?
Great bunch of guys.
I just wish someone had told me to turn off the recording first.
I wish we did.
Now it's posterity.
We'd be a great choir
Thank
if
you
we
very
just
much,
muted our mics.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Jimmy, I apologize to
It's nothing. You can see it was nothing. You knew instinctively it was nothing. I'm glad I didn't share that in the middle of all the stuff tonight. I don't think I would have done it.
At any rate, I think we'll be together next week.
Wow.
Everybody have a good week.
Good night.
Jake, you can turn it off.
Herb, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice week.
Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Okay, be well.